Hello, Skelevaderites. Good to see you all. Ostradamus Toys, Oz, good to see you. Indeed, this week's Weekly Weirdo is certainly one for the books. Bud, great to see you here. Good to see you. Duchess, hey, great to see you here. Carol, awesome to see you here. So first thing I want to say is thanks so much to all of you for being here, and also thank you to my Patreons, to the Skelevator channel, MotuOriginsCork. Oh, oi indeed, MotuOriginsCork, good to see you. Carol Geis, who's here also. Don Roberts, hey Don, I hope you're doing all right. We've been thinking about you, so hope you're doing better. And my buddies Customs, of course, thank you so much. And Brick Something, I really appreciate all of you as Patreons. I was able to pick a little something up that I'm excited to talk about in maybe even next week's Weekly Weirdo. It all depends on shipping, but thanks to you all, I was able to get this particular thing, and I'm really excited about it. But today, John, figuratively speaking, good to see you. Yes, great to see you. And who am I? I think I got everybody here. Now everybody's chatting with each other, which I love to see. I've got my coffee, and I'm ready to talk about this. So today's Weekly Weirdo is another very special character, special to me. Very close to my heart. Sometimes when I'm thinking about my favorite figures, my favorite action figures of all time, this guy makes it up to number 1. It always depends on my mood, but he's sometimes in the number 1 spot. I've already talked about some other folks, some other figures that have shown up in the number 1 spot too. Speaking of folks, Elf Inflict, good to see you. Very good to see you here. So without further ado, I'm going to talk about today's Weekly Weirdo. This guy, you can smell him coming from a mile away. You know where I'm going with this? I'm going to show you the very first version of this figure that I was able to get as an adult. I had this guy as a kid, and he was definitely one of my favorites as a kid. As you saw in previous episodes, Beastman is one of my favorites. So you see him going into Motu Masters of the Universe territory. Sorry, Joe Amato. You also saw me talk about Clawful, and Clawful is one that I did have, and Clawful is definitely one of my favorites too. In a lot of ways, this guy is very similar to Clawful because I had him, and I really enjoyed playing with him. I think you're in the right category there, MotuOriginsCork. Yep. So now, because I don't have my figures from when I was a kid, I was able to pick up a vintage version of this figure, and this is actually the first version of the figure that I got as an adult collector, and it is still one of my treasured items from my collection. And yes, folks, we are talking about Stinkor. Yeah, it could have been Perfuma. That's right. But I am talking about Stinkor. And hey, Bobby, good to see you, man. Great to see you. And Payne's Toy Samples, great to see you, man. This is awesome. You're all showing up. So yeah, this so unlike some of my other stuff I've purchased for my collection in recent years, my first version of this character that I was able to get is actually the vintage version, and sure enough, he still smells. So when I bought this guy, the description on eBay said that he still had his smell, but I wasn't expecting him to smell the way he does. But he indeed has. I opened up that box and it was almost like opening the package up as a kid. Those of you who got a brand new Stinkor from the original Masters of the Universe line, you know, yeah, Stinkor, exactly. You know how powerful that smell was coming out of the package. And over the years, I've grown to appreciate the smell of Stinkor. I never thought he was stinky as a kid. He didn't ever gross me out, and maybe I'm just weird, but I was never grossed out by his smell. I always kind of liked it, and sometimes when I'd be, going, either displaying my action figures as a kid or playing with them, I would just smell the Stinkor smell. And smelling him today, he brings back a lot of really good memories. So, and a good toy should do that for us. Let's see, Danny Phillips, great to see you here. So how many of you all have a vintage Stinkor, and does your vintage Stinkor still smell? We're going to get into the origin Stinkor in a little bit, because for those of you that enjoyed the smell of the vintage Stinkor, know that the origin Stinkor was a little bit disappointing. Danny says, your vintage Stinkor no longer smells, but for Perfuma does. All right, that's cool. And Bobby, yes, his does still smell. That's great. I do, and it stinks. All right. So the next one I got, the next one I picked up was the reaction version of Stinkor, and from Super 7, and I love this guy. And he, I bought him at full price. Later on, he became very affordable on Big Bad Toy Store. He's no longer available that I know of. Maybe he is. But he comes with an odd choice. He comes with a blue gun as opposed to the blue shield, which all the other Stinkors come with. But I love the little blue gun. It's great. And the big thing that I was hoping would happen as I opened the Super 7 reaction package was that he would have a smell. And of course he doesn't. Let's see, Bud, I don't have a vintage, and that stinks. That's hilarious. Well, they're still out there. You can still find them on eBay, and there's a good chance it still smells a little bit. Oz, as Oz says, his Stinkor still has some smell. So yeah, give it a try, Bud, and hopefully you'll get lucky. I particularly love this this Stinkor because he has different eyes. He has little pinhole eyes as opposed to the cat-like slits, and that gives him a great look of surprise, and it's perfect for. He's shown up in a lot of my action figure photos on Instagram. Bobby, I'm glad Stinkor is one of your faves too, man. He's great. I mean, I loved Merman, but this guy, the orange and the black and the white and the red just really makes this guy stand out. And of course, it's that smell. To this day, every time I smell patchouli, I don't. Yeah, I know it's an acquired taste, I suppose. And I think because I had Stinkor as a kid, I have an appreciation for the patchouli smell. Sometimes I really like it. I even bought a deodorant not too long ago that had a patchouli smell, and my wife was like, "No, please don't wear that anymore." And plus, it didn't do a very good job of covering up my own smell. So, but I do have a deep affection for that smell, and I can definitely say it has everything to do with Stinkor, and less about head shops, and in the 90s. So then I was, oh, nope, sorry. Yes. Then I was able to get the Origins Stinkor. Actually, no, sorry, that is out of order. The next one I got, we'll talk about Origins Stinkor last because I have a lot to say. Let's see here. Alf says, "What did the Classics one smell like, and was it also patchouli? I know Mossman had a rowdy pine smell to him." Yes, so I did get the Classics Mossman. We're going to talk about him in a future episode, and he does have a very good pine smell. It's gone now, completely gone. When I opened him up out of the package, he smelled great. I have never held or smelled a Classics Stinkor, so I missed the boat on the classic Stinkor completely. And yes, Oz, Jelly-Eyed Kraken on Instagram has amazing, hilarious, almost existential stories of Merman and Stinkor, and they are predominantly the reaction figures. Got a deep appreciation for Jelly-Eyed Kraken, so shout out to Jelly-Eyed Kraken. Yeah, MotuOriginsCork used to have some punk and goth girlfriends back in the day. He learned to love the smell from that. Yeah, that was a big deal in the early 90s. The punks wore patchouli, the neo hippies wore patchouli. It was a big deal. The head shops were making a lot of money selling patchouli oil back then. Don't really smell it that much these days, but yeah, I have an appreciation for it too because of Stinkor. Yeah, John, Stinkor is a really cool figure. I completely agree. And where did you go, Ray? Good to see you. Fantastic. Okay, so the next one I got, and this is great. This is a nice tie-in to Legends of Grayskull podcast, and also we can talk a little bit about PowerCon. But when I went to PowerCon with the family, it was right after the pandemic. And it was still in California. It was the last one in Anaheim. It was our first PowerCon, the very last one in Anaheim, and I ran into the Dooch, Matthew Dooch from the Legends of Grayskull podcast, and I believe I'm remembering this correctly. He was talking with Motu Joe. We were over there by one of the statues booths, and I ran into him. We were trying to connect the whole day, and I had just purchased or was planning to purchase this. It was really high on my list of a figure that I needed and that I wanted, and I was willing to spend money on it. I did get it for a pretty good deal. Let's see here. Here it is. So as I was talking to, when I met the Dooch, I was still sort of on an adrenaline rush from having picked this up. But this NECA staction of Stinkor is definitely one of my prized possessions. I absolutely love this version of the character. The 2000X or Mike Young Productions version of Stinkor is absolutely an amazing design. I mean, look at those boots. I mean, it's very cool. Look at these spikes on the back. And then, of course, the canisters of stink or oxygen, perhaps even to protect him from his own stink. I'll have to rewatch that episode. It's a good one where it tells his origin story. But this is really great. And, you know, and I already knew when I bought this, I already knew that it didn't smell and that it wouldn't smell. But sometimes I wish it did, because a Stinkor, I know that some people feel this way, but I certainly feel this way. If it's going to be a Stinkor action figure, it should smell. And I know some people have mixed feelings about the Mortarheads NECA mask that will be hopefully coming out soon, the Stinkor mask. I really think it should have the smell too. You know, it's not to be, those masks are really to be saved and put on the shelf. So I wouldn't be worried about being inundated by the smell wearing it. I think I might just wear it once for maybe like 10 minutes or so. But I just hope it has a smell too. Yeah. Oh, Bobby, you don't have this one? Bobby, you pretty much have everything. I'm surprised you don't have it. So yeah, I had been sort of scoping it out on eBay, and then this booth at PowerCon had it for $80. I think it was $80, and that's borderline a good deal on this particular figure. And at the time, it was the most I'd ever spent on an action figure. It might still be actually. So yeah, love this action Stinkor. Now we get to talk about the origin Stinkor. Let's see here. Alphinflict says, you love the Staction, just scored a sealed Hordak. Wow. That's great. Congratulations. The Hordak is beautiful. Yes, Bobby, every time so yeah, it's the same thing. I was looking for it previous to that PowerCon, and I was noticing it was expensive and the tanks and hoses are broken. The hoses are very delicate, and so I get real nervous whenever I move this around. But the detail is fantastic. Hey, yeah, you know what, Payne? I did not bring out I have my Masterverse figures packed up. I do have a Masterverse Stinkor, and thank you for reminding me. I should have went and got him out, but I didn't. But the design of that particular Stinkor is fantastic. Again, I had it just like probably many of you. I had this, hope that in opening the package he would bring that smell, but he didn't. But yes, the Masterverse Stinkor is great. The Stinkor mask does need to be smelly. Thank you, Oz. Yes, for sure. Oz, don't resist the Masterverse Stinkor. I did see him at Target. He was discounted. It wasn't a great clearance price. It was like $15, but I did see him not too long ago. If I ever run into him again at that price, I'll let you know. But they've been sort of disappearing from Target. So that's right. Welcome, uncosplay. Uncosplay. Sorry. Yeah, welcome. We're talking about Stinkor. You'll have to go back and watch from the beginning. I talk about the original version. I talk about the reaction one and the NECA Staction. And we were just now talking about the Masterverse version, and he is beautiful. Oh yes, Alphinflict. Yeah, the odorous version, the little baby or pre-Stinkor. And he came with another figure or another statue, or maybe he came with this. But I have looked up the price of that odorous, and it's ridiculously expensive. Maybe it was made by somebody, maybe an independent. Maybe somebody made a custom of that. Bud says, I can keep an eye on Amazon. He's usually like $13. Yeah. Yeah, so keep an eye out for that. I think that I'll keep an eye out for you too, Oz. And he said, thank you, gents. All right, so this is crazy. The vintage one still has a smell, and the Origins one doesn't even have a smell anymore. He smells like plastic. And I know that when I opened the package, it said it's had a smell. There on most Origins figures, there's a little bit of a vent down at the bottom, like a little bit of area where the plastic peeks out over the cardboard so that the action figure gets some ventilation. With the Origins Stinkor, that was covered up so that the smell would maintain. And I had high hopes. I opened up that package. You can watch my review video on this channel. Opened up that package, and I was pretty disappointed. I love the colors, the bright orange, the bright red. They're almost indiscernible on this screen, but they're great. The colors are great. And they didn't, I love that they didn't add any additional details to his mouth. It's just like the vintage, where his mouth is just black plastic. They didn't decide to apply any paint applications there. I love the way this figure looks. I love how he looks on the shelf. It's just so sad that his smell is very mild and nearly completely gone. And the best way to describe the smell of the Origins one was that maybe like plastic, like a slightly perfumed new plastic smell. Um, and it's not great. It doesn't, it's not patchouli at all. It's not gross. It's kind of fragrant, mildly fragrant is the best way I can describe it. Thanos Copter, good to see you. Good to see you. And Primate, good to see you. Hey, it's great to see you back. It's awesome. And let's see here. Yeah, the Origin Stinkor is disappointing that it doesn't smell. And they advertise, I mean, it's even like the action feature on the back is that kid going, poo. But yeah, it doesn't smell at all. Now it doesn't smell at all. It just smells like plastic. And actually, I do want to say, speaking of smells, the smell of the Origins line is quite nice. Most toys have a very distinct smell. I feel like most toy lines have a distinct smell. Some toys smell like other toys, but I feel like the Origins toy line has a very unique smell to it that I kind of love. So I don't dislike the smell of Stinkor because he smells like all the other Origins figures, but he certainly should have come with the patchouli smell. Bud says, I'm going to go in and paint my Stinkor, add some color to his armor, and paint his belt red like it should be. Yeah, do it. I mean, the Origin Stinkor does have a red belt, but it's not red. It's like orange on orange almost. But yes, for sure. Hey, the Prowler's here. Let's see what you had to say here. I have the Mexican box version, and he's called Senor Stinkor. That's awesome. That's great. Plastic smell connoisseur. Yeah. Hey, not too long ago, I opened up John from Figuratively Speaking. I know he's a big fan of this line, but it's the Dollar Tree line. Why am I blanking out on the name now? But I opened up one of those figures, the big ones, and it smelled just like Cy Snoodles and the band from Return of the Jedi. Took me right back to that particular toy set that I got as a Christmas present. So yeah, I am a little bit of a plastic smell connoisseur, I guess, maybe to a fault. Bud says my Stinkor doesn't stink, but more of a plastic chemical smell. Yeah, that's right. They never gave him a bath and washed the chemicals off. Maybe that's it. Maybe that's all they did. They just didn't like hose him off after he came out of the mold. Did I say hi to the Prowler? Yes, I did. Okay, good. Yeah, it's great to see you all in the chat here talking. Yes, thank you, Pains. Final faction, absolutely. Stinkor has now become Spanish in my head, as Oz says here. Yeah, for sure. Senor Stinkor. Hashtag Senor Stinkor. So, hoping that the rubber mask that comes out, Mortar Heads, I hope that mask comes out from Mortar Heads and NECA, and it has a little bit of a patchouli smell. And any other future Stinkors that come out should certainly have that smell, right? Oz, yeah, there's a whole new line of those Final Faction figures showing up in the dollar store. I've been holding off on them. They're very cool. I have a couple of them, but I don't. I'm more excited about a few other things that are on the horizon. So I'm trying to pinch my pennies a little bit. Hey, El Tenda, good to see you. So yeah, I want to say, Uncosplay says, oh, if no one said, Otifice came with Jitsu. That's what it was. Thank you, Uncosplay, because we were trying to figure out what it was. That's right, Ray. Hashtag Senor Stinkor. Yeah, well, I gotta say, it's great to have all of you here in the chat. And it's so awesome to see you all here. I'm a big fan of Stinkor. I'm a big fan of the Masters of the Universe villains in general, but I go through very intense phases where I just want to hang out with Stinkor, and I get tempted. There's a friend of mine on Facebook. We're friends on there through a couple of different toy communities on Facebook. His name's Dan Rice. I don't know if we haven't talked in a while, but he had a whole shelf of vintage Stinkors. So I imagine that room, his toy room, probably has a very, very pungent patchouli smell. And every once in a while, I get tempted to think like, oh, if I could find some more affordable vintage Stinkors, I might do the same thing. Keeping Stinkor in this glass case, but this one here, I have them in here usually. So when I do open up the case every once in a while, the smell is a little bit there. So I do feel like I am saving his smell a little bit, which is cool. So if you have one, keep him in an enclosed container. Yes, odorous. That's right, odorous. That's right. Alf called him odorous, like in Guar. That's hilarious, and I went right along with it. It makes sense, right? Odorous. So yes, it was odorous, and because odorous existed before the Mike Young Productions decided to call Stinkor's original version odorous, I bet there's a relationship there. Has to be. And John says, do all the versions of Stink or look the same, or do they have differences? Every version of Stinkor, every vintage version of Stinkor that I have come across in doing vintage toy shopping, if I see one of these in a plastic package, I'll open it up and I'll take a little whiff. It's always the same patchouli smell. And this is certainly the same smell from my childhood. So if that's what you're asking, yes, it's the same exact smell. None of the other versions of Stinkor have that smell. And Garaf, welcome. Good to see you. And we all have, so we have our wallets ready for tomorrow. I mean, I have a feeling tomorrow is going to be an announcement. I don't know if they're gonna. I have a feeling they're going to announce something fairly big. I have my expectations kind of low. I'm expecting them to announce like Snake Mountain, or a release date for Snake Mountain, or a pre-order period for Snake Mountain tomorrow, or a few other figures, maybe Heath Skeletor or something, or a plan for the future of Origins and Masterverse. I'm hoping for. But I don't know if I don't feel like they're gonna suddenly spring something on us that we gotta buy. But maybe they will. So with that being said, no, I don't have that ready for tomorrow because I don't know what to be prepared for. How could I possibly be ready? I'd prefer to be prepared for something. So I think they're gonna make an announcement, hopefully not ask us to buy something. Alpha Inflict says, I painted my Origin Stinkor's teeth white. Looks good. Cool. Good. Yeah, that would look good. Although I gotta say, I love the way that he looks like the vintage one. And Uncosplay says, oh, Skelevator, do you own the Mythic Legion's Tribute 4 Horseman made Mephitor? Yes, I do. And gosh, you're all on top of this more than I am this week. So speaking of the Dooch, or Matthew Dooch, he actually traded some artwork. He bought me the Mephitor and Bryophytus, and I got Bryophytus up here too, right there. And so these are the two Mythic Legions figures that I do have. And so yeah, I do have this guy, and he's amazing. Mythic Legions are really a phenomenal line. This is as far as I've been willing to go in investing in this line. But I used to make these paintings on wood. They're like little wood panels. I still have some, but I haven't been like promoting it a lot lately. But I make these little wood paintings of Masters of the Universe characters in my style. They're called Motu Misfits. And whenever I make a Stinkor one, I've made several of them, I glaze the wood with patchouli oil. So when you get the Stinkor painting, you open up the package that it comes in, and it has a certain, I mean, a very, very pungent patchouli smell. So I'll have to check to see with those folks out there that have purchased one of those paintings and see if the smell has still lasted. But yeah. I have done that, and I did trade the Dooch a few of those paintings for Mephitor and Bryophytus, and Mephitor is great. Yeah, love it. Well, I don't know why I didn't think of that. So thank you, Uncosplay. Primate says, I'm good. Stinkor, yeah, Stinkor has the smell. So both versions, Masterverse and Origins, are kind of disappointing. 100%. The sculpt on the Masterverse version is amazing. The sculpt on the Origins version is fantastic, but why don't they smell? So yeah, that's it. MotuOriginsCork, so tempted to get the homage figures only. Hey, you know what? If you have the money to get the homage figures, if I had it, I might do that. But I already missed a bunch of them, and some of those that I missed are very expensive. But I do know that Cullen Culp on Facebook has spin the wheel contests every once in a while, and usually one of those figures will show up in there. It's a little bit tempting to compete or to gamble and try and get one of those that way, but you never know. You might win one. But yes, Oz is saying that's how it begins. So be careful. Chronaw is amazing. Yeah, it's very cool. Yeah. So everyone's trying to sell Bobby and MotuOriginsCork on the Mythic Legions now. It's inundated the community. So that's it for my Stinkor episode. Thank you all so much for watching. Thanks to the folks that contribute to the Patreon, Skelevators Patreon, MotuOriginsCork, obviously, My Buddies Customs, and more recently, Don Roberts, and got Carol Geis and Brick Something. Thank you all so much for contributing. As I mentioned, your contributions not only have contributed to Toy Frenzy stickers that are coming our way, but also they've helped me get a little something that is a bit of a grail piece for me that's coming in the mail pretty soon. So thank you all very much, and I'll be talking about that here in one of the Weekly Weirdo episodes. So bye everybody. Thanks so much for being here. Be sure to click like and subscribe and do the YouTube things, and I'll see you all in the next video.